Hi everyone and welcome to another tutorial about Pygame. Now in this tutorial I plan to introduce you to the game that we will be creating during our tutorial lessons, and at the same time I want to create a new Pygame template that we can use. So the Pygame template that we created originally was quite good, but the main goal in this video is to create a new Pygame template which is a lot more organized and a lot more easier to use. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so when we have Visual Studio Code open, I am going to create a new file and I am going to call it main.py. And basically the way this template will work is that we will have three files. So the first one will be main.py, and then the second one will be settings.py, and then the third one will be sprites.py. Now the third one, depending on how many characters we end up using, you might want to change that. I know that for our project we will end up changing it, but I'll get into that afterwards. Anyways, so to basically go along with the Pylint documentation on how exactly to program Python, I'm going to create a doc string at the top of my file, and I will just say Pygame templates. And then the way we'll start this template is that we'll start by importing our libraries. So we'll import Pygame, and then we'll import it as PG so we don't have to keep on using Pygame every time we want to use a command that's from the Pygame library. And then I'll also import random, and since we won't be using random this video, I'll just put that in the comments. And underneath that, we're going to access the two files that we created before. Now in Python, when you set up your project like this, the files that you create as extras for your file, so to speak, they're called modules. So it's just a way to greater improve your code's organization and readability. So I'll just import settings, and I'll import sprites, and we won't be using that today, so I'll just put that in the comment as well. Now the first thing that we're going to do is create a class, and we're going to call the class main. And the reason I'm calling it main is because obviously this is the main section of our program. We're going to have our game loop and all the game elements inside this class. So the first thing that we need to do is put a doc string, and I'll just say main class for our game. And then I will create the constructor for the class. And if you don't know, that is how you create a constructor in Python. And underneath this constructor, there's a bunch of things that we need to add. So first off, we will initialize Pygame. Then we'll initialize the mixer. Then we'll create a screen. And then I'll set the title of my game. And then I'll create a clock object. And then we'll create this self.running variable set to true. That's pretty much the variable we're going to be using to control our game loop. That's all you really need to know about that. And I forgot the doc string over here. I'll just say setup Pygame. Okay, now hold on a second. You'll see, I don't know why Pylint's not showing it. There it is. That we have an error over here because we didn't actually define the width, height, or the title. So the place we're going to define these variables is in the settings file. So if you hop on over to settings.py right here, excuse me. So over here we're going to define these variables. So first I need a doc string saying stores settings for game, and then I will define my screen settings. So width, I'll set that to 320. For our game, I'm probably going to change that, but for right now, for sake of our template, I'll just set to 320. And then the title of the game, I will set to my game. And since we're here, we might as well define FPS too, so that's 60. Also, actually, let's just finish the entire settings file right now. So let's just define some colors like we did last time. So we'll define the color black, that's 0, 0, 0. Color white, 255, 255, 255. Color red, 255, 0, 0. And the color green, 0, 255, 0. Color blue, 0, 0, 255. Okay, so that's pretty much all we need in our settings file. Now, for our sprites file, I'm going to keep that empty for right now because I haven't actually introduced you to my game yet, well, our game that we're going to be creating for our project. And you can see that this is still undefined. Now, the reason that is because we imported settings, and the reason that we imported settings like this is because that's actually the way you're supposed to do it using Pylint. So pretty much, if we didn't want to include settings dot whatever the variable is each time, we could do from settings import asterisk, and that's pretty much just a wildcard statement. So all the variables from the settings file get transferred over, but you can see we get this squiggly line over here because you're actually not supposed to use the wildcard. It's kind of discouraged in the Python community, so the way we'll just do it is import settings, and then to define these variables just do settings dot width, settings dot height, settings dot title. Okay, so now that we've created our constructor for the class, we can begin on our other methods. So the first method that I'm actually going to create is new, and pretty much what we're going to use this method for is just to create a new game. Pretty self-explanatory that. And all we need to really include in this method, besides the doc string, create a new game, is that I'm going to call another method called run. Now the run method for our case will be the main game loop. It's what we'll be doing the updating, rendering, drawing, and processing input. So first create a doc string saying game loop, and then over here we'll do while self dot. Actually, let's create another variable for controlling the game loop. So I'll create another variable called self.playing. I'll set that to true, and then I will say while self.playing. We will need to let me think how I want to do this. The first thing that we'll do is self.clock.tick settings.fps. So the first thing we'll do is control FPS. Let me just put a comment over there. Control FPS. And then the second thing that we want to do is process our events. So we'll create another method called self.events. The third thing that we want to do is to update. And the last thing that we want to do is draw. And I think I should remove this comment over here because that just looks kind of weird. And that is pretty much all we have in our run method. Now, let's create another method called events. And this event method will be pretty similar to our original Pygame template for event in pg.event.get. If event.type equals pg.quit, we want to, got the colon, we want to exit this game loop, so I'll set self.play equal to false and set self.running equal to false. Self.playing, then self.playing should equal false. Okay, and then I will just put a comment over here saying if the window closes And of course I need a doc string too, otherwise it will keep bothering me about that. I want to say game loop events. Okay, now we can create the update method. Now for right now, I'll just leave this method empty. And then the draw method. Draw method, pretty self-explanatory, it's pretty much the same as last time. Self.screen.fill settings.black. And then actually not self dot, it's pg.display.flip. And that's all we have in our draw method for right now. Okay, so I've been thinking, and the way that we're going to control sprites for our game is that we're going to create sprite groups just so that we can better control all the sprites that we have in our game. So let's just create a sprite group over here. So in the new game section, say self.all_sprites equals pg.sprite.group. There you have it. And also you'll notice that in Pylint we get these squiggly lines over here saying that you declared a self variable that's not inside the constructor. So to fix that, we'll just declare other variables that are used in other methods in our constructor. So self.all_sprites. I'll just set that equal to none right now, and self.playing. I'll also set that to none. So then you can see in a new method and a run method, these variables eventually end up getting defined anyway. So we create a all sprites group, and now on update we will do self.all_sprites.update. And I forgot the doc string. Game loop dash update. Okay, so that is pretty good, I would say, for the new Pygame template. But what we have to do is create an instance of this class so we can actually use the template. So the way that I will do this is that I will create another method, and I'll call it game. It won't take any parameters. And the other thing that I will do is I'll say if the name of this file is equal to main, then we'll call the game method. So you don't really need to call a function this way, obviously. It's just standard practice in Python, so might as well do it. And then docstring method for creating game instance. So in this, we'll declare a variable called g, and I will set this to main. And then what we will do is, first off, I missed the docstring. Game loop dash draw. And just for the sake of simplicity, so I don't have to do this later, I think I'll also create a method for a start screen and a game over screen. So at the end over here, I'll just create a method called def start_screen. No parameters, and let's say pass def game over screen. Show go_screen self. This should be show start screen self, and of course I need the doc string. So start screen or game, and we'll say game over screen or game. We'll say that I already need this pass over here, so get rid of that. First, I'm just going to wait to see if Pylint says there are any errors. It seems like we are almost good. So there's an extra space here. Okay, so we've called the game method, and now over here under this we'll do d.show underscore start screen. Call this method, and then we'll say while g.running. Remember, g is the instance of our main class which we just created. So we'll say while g.running, g.new, and then g.show underscore game over screen. And then at the end of the loop, once the loop breaks, we will do pygame.quits. And that is the new Pygame template, pretty much. Okay guys, so as promised, I am going to now introduce you to the game that we are going to be creating for our tutorial series. So as you can already see from the slide, we're going to be focusing on the Justice League. And the members of the Justice League we're going to be focusing on are Batman, Flash, Aquaman, and Superman. And the great thing about having multiple characters is that in a way we can teach you a lot more because each character will have its own unique ability. So the game that we're going to be basing this off of is a Flash game called Tag Team Titans. And the way this game worked is that pretty much you would basically be moving around in a platforming world with multiple characters trying to get past each and every single level until you would eventually have to face a boss. So we're going to be following a similar style, and basically our game will feature a health and focus bar, enemies, maps, multiple characters, multiple levels, platforms, a score, and power-ups, or also known as bonuses. So as you can see, by creating a game like this, there are multiple aspects that we cover of game development, especially concerning 2D game development. So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. And as always, like, share, and subscribe. And hopefully in the next video, we will get started on this game.